everyone. It is time for a pronunciation challenge. I would like to share one of my favorite tongue twisters. We're going to look at the example and then break it down and look at all the tricky parts together. Let's go. Betty Botter bought a bit of butter, but she said, "The butter's bitter. If I put it in my batter, it will make my batter bitter. But a bit of better butter will make my batter better." So she bought a bit of butter, better than her bitter butter, and she put it in her batter, and it made her batter better. Did you follow all that? Okay, so your first question is probably, why should I practice tongue twisters? Simple. They are a great way for you to practice your pronunciation by focusing on those tricky little sounds that are often confused. Not only that, it's also a really good way of focusing on pausing and intonation, because that's what makes tongue twisters easier to understand and, of course, easier to say. By the way, for those of you who don't know me, hi, my name's Anisa, and I've been teaching English for the past 20 years. This channel is all about me sharing tips, tricks, and giving explanations to help you improve your English. In my experience, I have seen students making the same mistakes over and over again, and I don't want that to happen to you. So if you're really interested in improving your English, then please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more. Now, to help you follow along with me today and get the most out of this practice, please pause, rewind, and replay this video as often as you need to get those sounds just right. So why is this tongue twister so tricky? It's because of those 5 B words: botter, butter, bitter, batter, better. 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 If you can't hear the difference between them, don't worry. The difference here are the vowel sounds, and that's what we're going to be focusing on right now. Botter, o, botter. Butter, butter. Bitter, bitter. Batter, batter. Better, better. Now, you should be noticing the shape of my mouth moving when I produce those different vowel sounds. O, I, e, e. O, I, e. This helps you focus on the shape of your mouth so you can produce the correct sounds. So how do you know what sound to make? If you're serious about learning English and improving your pronunciation, it's a good idea to become familiar with the IPA, the International Phonetic Alphabet. It's basically a bunch of symbols that represent the sounds in a language rather than the letters themselves. Because as you know, how a word looks and how a word sounds can sometimes be very different. So let's look at the IPA for these words. Botter, butter, bitter, batter, better. So you might have noticed that I'm speaking in a British accent. I was born in England, but I actually grew up in Canada. That's where I went to high school, college, and university. So let's see what a Canadian accent would be like. In British, we would say Botter, butter, bitter, batter, better. But in Canadian, botter, butter, bitter, batter, better. Botter, butter, 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 bitter, bitter, batter, batter, better, better. Now, we're not going to go into all the differences between the pronunciation of these two accents, and we don't need to, because if we look at the IPA transcription, we will see that the vowel sounds we're focusing on are exactly the same. So what do you do if you're not familiar with the IPA and maybe you're not interested in learning it? Don't worry, I am a big fan of making comparisons. So always compare the sounds in new words or words that you're having difficulty pronouncing to words that you already know that contain that same sound. Let's try that with our sounds from this tongue twister. Botter, Betty Botter. That has the O sound that you would find in hot, not, what. Now Betty Botter, Botter, it's just her last name, so you might never need to use this word. But you will probably use the word hotter quite a lot. Hot, hotter, the hottest. Today is much hotter than yesterday. The second sound is in butter, It's the same sound you'll find in up, cut, umbrella, upset. Let's compare botter, and butter, Betty Botter bought butter. Betty Botter bought butter. The third vowel sound is the short I in bitter. You'll find this in lots of words. In, sit, river, build, bitter. The taste of the butter was bad. It was bitter. We use this adjective to describe the taste of things like dark chocolate or coffee without any sugar. Betty Botter bought a bit of butter. But, she said, the butter's bitter. So, to recap, we've got botter, butter, and bitter, The next one is the A sound in batter. This is the same A in cat, baseball, bat, or an apple, A. So batter is what she was preparing to cook. Maybe pancake batter or batter for fish and chips. If I put it in my batter, it will make my batter bitter. Oh, we don't want a bitter batter. The last sound we're going to focus on is the E sound in better. Like bed, head, my garden shed, but a bit of better butter will make my batter better. So to review, we have got botter, butter, bitter, batter, and better. So we've had a look at the sounds and some of the meanings of these words. So let's remember the full tongue twister. Betty Botter bought a bit of butter, but she said the butter's bitter. If I put it in my batter, it will make my batter bitter. But a bit of better butter, that will make my batter better. So she bought a bit of butter, better than her bitter butter, and she put it in her batter, and it made her batter better. But the problem is that it gets difficult to understand when we speak quickly. And this is because of connected speech. Connected speech has various different elements, and I'm not going to bore you with the linguistic jargon to describe these different terms. But we are going to have a look at some of the tricky points from this tongue twister and consider how you might use them in daily conversations. Let's start by talking about the quantity of butter. A bit of butter. When we speak quickly, of is not stressed. It's very common for this word. So it sort of gets lost and ends up sounding like a bit of butter. Secondly, it's common for a word ending in a consonant to link to the next word if it starts with a vowel. I'll go into more detail on these points in another video, but let's just focus on a bit of. So that consonant on T connects with the vowel O in of. It almost jumps over and you end up with a bit of butter. But then something else actually happens as well. When we speak quickly, that F or almost a V sound in of disappears completely. And you end up with a bitter butter. So let's focus on those three syllables. A bitter, a bitter, a bitter butter, a bitter butter, a bitter butter. Now we're using this to add a quantity or count the uncountable noun of butter. Can you think of any other uncountable nouns that we could use this with? The first thing that comes to my mind is chocolate. Oh, a bit of chocolate. Ooh, I fancy a bit of chocolate. What about coffee? Oh, I'm tired. I need a bit of coffee to keep me awake. Now, I definitely don't want bitter coffee. I like sugar in my coffee, but I do need an amount of coffee. So I need a bit of coffee to keep me awake. What about time? We can count minutes, days, years, months, but time itself is uncountable. So, do you have a bit of time to help me go over my proposal for tomorrow? Do you have a bit of time to help me go over my proposal for tomorrow? Do you have a bit of time? So I think a phrase that most of us could use is, I've got a bit of work to do on my pronunciation. I've got a bit of work to do on my pronunciation. So there you have it. 3 syllables, a bit of is the natural way of pronouncing this quantifier. Let's compare the quantifier, a bitter, with the adjective, bitter. A bitter, 3 syllables, bitter, 2 syllables. bitter butter. So Betty Botter doesn't want a bitter butter. She wants a bitter better butter for her batter. Okay, so let's slow down. Pay attention to those vowel sounds. Remember the number of syllables in a bitter and bitter, and really focus on pausing and intonation to make that meaning clear. Ready? Okay. Betty Botter bought a bit of butter, but she said, the butter's bitter. If I put it in my batter, it will make my batter bitter. But a bit of better butter will make my batter better. So she bought a bit of butter, better than her bitter butter, and she put it in her batter. And it made her batter better. If you followed along with that, fantastic. But the point of a tongue twister is to be as fast as possible. So let's see how we can do. Betty Botter bought a bit of... Betty Botter bought a bit of butter, but she said the butter's bitter. If I put it in my batter, it will make my batter bitter. Butter, bitter, better, butter will make my batter better. So she bought a bit of butter better than her bitter butter, and she put it in her batter, and it made her batter better. Yes! Everyone, if you are still watching, wow, thank you so much for watching this whole video. We have looked at one of my favorite tongue twisters. We focused on the different vowel sounds that are commonly confused. We've considered how useful the International Phonetic Alphabet can be to help you distinguish those different sounds. We also touched briefly on the idea of connected speech and the elements that go into making that. And we considered the importance of pausing and intonation in conveying meaning. So if you found this video useful and helpful in any way, please like and comment below. Don't forget to subscribe if you really are interested in improving your English. So keep practicing your pronunciation, and I'll see you in the next video.